Hello and welcome to this new tutorial where we are going to go through the process of modeling, lighting, look depth, and rigging of this scene. Here we have a blank Blender file with two empty collections. First for the references and second for geometry. In the front view, I will add the image reference. And in the image properties, I will change depth to front and reduce the opacity. Now same steps for the animation reference, since I want to model the first frame of it to make it easier later to rig and animate. Now we'll start the modeling, starting with the body. Add a new cube, scale it down to match the worm body thickness. Then in the edit mode, we'll move these vertices to match the body length. Now we'll add a subdivision modifier to smooth things out and add some loop cuts in the edit mode. Now some edits and refinements with the X-ray toggle on. Now for these worm spiked scales, a cube as well, scale it down on all axes and in the edit mode, scale it again to match the reference. And now a lot of loop cuts, 2 for each one of those pointy spikes. Now move some vertices to match the reference. Scale all top points on the Y. Now add subdivision modifier to smooth things out and refine again to match the reference. A new cube for the mouth. Scale it and add subdivision modifier. Then edit and add some loop cuts when needed and move it to the front a little. Now bunch of UV spheres for the eyes and nose. And the worm now is set. Now for the apple, I'm going to rotate the reference to make it easier for the eye and start by adding UV sphere with a scale matching the reference. And in the edit mode, with proportional editing turned on, let's move some points and edges to match the reference. Now add subdivision modifier to smooth things out. Now move 3D cursor to the selected. Now a cube for the apple's stem with loop cuts and proportional editing and a subdivision modifier. Another cube for the leaf and edit it to match the reference with a proper scaling. Then a subdivision surface modifier and tweak a bit. Another cube for those blasters with a proper scaling and a subdivision modifier. Then some tweaks in the edit mode to match the reference. Then duplicate and rotate. Now I'm going to add a lattice, scale it down to contain both blasters and in its properties U to 10, V to 0, W to 10 to make it 2D flat. Join these two and set the lattice parent to them so that the lattice controls the transformations. And next, add a lattice modifier and choose the lattice so that the lattice controls the deformations now of the object. Now add a shrink wrap modifier to the lattice and move it to a proper location with a proper rotation to help the shrink warp modifier to be accurate. And finally, choose the apple now and it will stick like magic. Move it and scale it a bit to match the reference. Now for the face, I will use curves. Starting by add a path curve, scale it down and edit to match the reference. Move it to the front and in the curve properties increase the depth to also match the reference. Toggle on fill caps, and to make it rounded, I will reduce the resolution to 0 first, then add a wheeled modifier, then a subdivision one. And here we go. Now duplicate and edit when needed. Now join all in one object and repeat same lattice method we did with the blasters. Now for the bite, I will use a cylinder. Scale down, move, rotate, and edit to make the cylinder in a perfect position as the reference. Now it's in a perfect spot. We'll add a Boolean modifier to the apple and subtract the cylinder from it. Hide the cylinder, and there you have it. Let's now duplicate it in the other place and add another Boolean modifier to the apple and subtract the second cylinder. Now to make the bite place smooth, I will have to smooth out the cylinders. So I will select one and add loop cuts in the edit mode, then a subdivision modifier, then hide it. Same process to the other, edit mode, loop cuts, subdivision modifier, and hide. Now set the apple parent to everything and the rotated reference apparent to the apple, and reset the rotation in the reference, and now the apple in a perfect position. Now for the environment elements, also basic meshes. Let's first add a camera with a proper settings to get a better view of everything. And now a plane for the ground, right under the worm and big enough to fill the place in the camera view. Now we'll add a displace modifier, add a new texture, hit show texture, change it to clouds. Nothing is showing because there is not enough segments. So let's add some by subdividing, increase number of cuts to 200, and here we go. Reduce displacement strength, and that's it. Now, UV spheres for those rounded candies, a cube here, and move things around with a scale in mind to match the reference. Another cube here, another cube there, and duplicate again here and again. Now bunch of cones with the proper editing. And now a cylinder here, edit it to match the reference and duplicate it here as well. Now Bezier curve for this tree branch with same techniques used on the apple face to get these rounded ends. Duplicate for the other branch. Now organize everything. Add a plane for the background in the back of everything. And finally, for the flowers, I will draw them using Bezier curves, edit it to match the reference, then increase the depth in the properties, duplicate it, and edit in both transformations and in the edit mode to match the reference. And there you have it. To set up some lights now, here in the render view, it's completely dark, as you can see. So I will start first with a sunlight, move it and rotate it to get nice shadows. And in its properties, change color to warmer tone and increase strength to 3. increase angle to 25 or reduce to 20, and we'll change rotations as follows. Now for a second light, I will add area 1 to the right of the scene, power of 200, and rotate it, and change to a warmer tone as well. Then duplicate to the other side, change color to pink. Now in the Render tab, under Color Management, change this to Standard, Render Engine to Cycles, GPU Compute, and to make things lighter, I will do as follows. Make lights more vibrant, and we are all set. Now to add life and characteristics for the objects, we will start the shading process. In the shading viewport, and the ground selected, click New. Then I will add Gradient Texture node, then Ctrl-T to add Mapping and Texture Coordinate nodes. I will change rotation on both X and Y to 90 to match the reference. Now connect Gradient Texture to Color Ramp to control the colors and connect it to Basic Color. Move the colors and change them to match the reference, and change Linear to Ease. Now I will add a texture to eliminate the flat look, starting with Noise Texture, connecting to Color Ramp, move colors to increase contrast, scale to a big number to make the texture smaller, reduce roughness, connect Color Ramp to Bump node, reduce strength, and finally connect to normal. And now we have a nice, more convincing texture on the ground. Move to this cone now. Add a new material, add wave texture, play with the scale a little till it's like the reference. Add mapping and texture coordinate to gain better controls. Change Y rotation to match the reference. Now color ramp and change linear to constant. Change colors to match the reference. Play with colors and scale to get the right result. And finally, reduce roughness to get some reflections. Next up, this cone, I will give it same material. Duplicate it and rename. Move color here to make it thicker. Y rotation to 90. Change color and play with the scale. This box now, we'll give it same material, duplicate and rename. Then tweak some settings and change color to match the reference. Same material for this one as well, duplicate, rename, and tweak, and so on for the small cone. Since they are all got the same lines, look, but different colors, scale, and rotations. Now this cone with dots, we'll create a new material, add Voronoi texture this time, connect it with color ramp, change linear to constant, play with colors and connect to base color. Change color to match the reference, increase randomness, and the space between the dots. Same material for this cube, duplicate, rename, tweak some values to get the right results, and add mapping and coordinates if needed to match the reference as possible. Change color, and that's it. Same thing for this cube as well. Duplicate, rename, then edit some values. Now for this cube of stars. Since we can't make a procedural stars pattern using the nodes, or it will take time to work it out, I will use a stars random pattern image that I made and link it to base color. Add mapping node, then value node, and connect it to the scale. and edit the value to get the nearest to reference. Same goes to this cone, a pre-made texture image connected and edited to kinda match the reference. Now this flower, new material, change color, then alpha value to make it transparent, and transfer the material to all other flowers. Moving to background now, add a new material, rename it, and we'll start with gradient texture, linked to a color ramp, linked to base color. Change colors and add some if necessary. Add mapping and texture coordinates and edit Y and Z rotations to 45. Change linear to easing. To add the dots texture on top of the gradient now, I will add Voronoi texture. Add mapping node, link to color ramp, linear to constant, move colors and change, and connect to base color. Now increase the scale and reduce randomness to 0 to get a uniformed pattern, and rotate 45 degrees on the Z to make it just like the reference. Now going to mix this with the gradient, so I will add a mix node. Switch connection from A to factor and the gradient color to B. Change color of A to white, then change mix to multiply, and there you have it. The apple now, new material, roughness to 0.2, gradient node, connect to color ramp, then to base color. Now mapping and coordinate, rotation X and Y to 90, change colors, and to get a better color arrangement, I will switch this connection to UV, play with colors, and that's it. Now for the apple leaf, I have already appended the clay material we made before in this tutorial, which you can find on YouTube. So all you have to do is select it and change the colors and fix the stretching if needed by doing a smart UV project. And same clay process for the worm. Now basic colors for these with roughness reduced to get nice reflections. And last object is those lollipops-like spheres. We'll start by adding new gradient texture, connect to color ramp, and connect to base color. Reduce roughness to 0.1, subsurface, change random walk to random walk skin, scale 0.1, and leave it for now. Add mapping and coordinate, switch to UV, rotations, X and Y to 90. Now to change some colors, change linear to easing, and move to the normal nodes now. Starting with noise texture, then duplicate it, and change roughness to 0.25. Connect this one to color ramp, and change color to gray. Connect the other noise with the color ramp as well, and change to gray as well. Now mix color node, and connect both. Change color to mix, connect to a bump node to the height, reduce strength to 0.2, and connect to normal. Now glossy BSDF, mix shader node, and connect both. Change color, reduce roughness to 0.1, and change this to GGX. Now connect the factor to Fresnel node. In the subsurface, increase weight to 1, reduce IOR. Now move to specular, change this to GGX, and transmission weight to 1. Now apply same material to all shapes, and all set. Now for these yellow plants in the background, I want them to be flat just like the reference, so I will draw them using grease pencil. I will add a new collection for grease pencil objects and add a blank grease pencil object in it. Now a new material. Let's call it yellow fill. Disable the stroke, then change the fill to yellow. Now in draw mode, you can see we have a filled shapes. I will select the circle tool and start draw by dragging while holding shift, then move to match the reference, then spacebar to confirm it, and draw another one, and so on. Now separate every piece to a new grease pencil object to move them freely in the viewport to a proper location and scale to match the reference. Now if I hit render, you will notice that grease pencil objects are in front of everything. So to solve this, I will go to View Layers tab, then enable Z. And now they are in place. But another thing, if you notice, they still affected by the lights, and I want them to be flat as possible as the reference. So to do that, just select the object and in Grease Pencil Properties, disable lights in both. And that's it. We are not going to cover the frame-by-frame animation process here, but you can always check our Blender key mesh tutorial on the channel to get a better understanding of the process. Now for the rigging part for the worm. I will select every part of it and solo them to make things clear and easier. To add a bone to the exact length of the worm, I will go to Edit Mode and select this point in the middle of the back and move 3D cursor to it. Then I will add a single bone, and now same steps, Edit Mode, and select the point in the middle of the front and move 3D cursor to it. And in the Edit Mode of the bone, I will snap the selected to the 3D cursor. Viewport display, make it always in front. Now subdivide, let's say to 30, to get smooth result. Now I will add a path curve to use it in the rig. Scale and move till it's the size and position of the bones. To establish the spline IK now, select the armature, switch to pose mode, select first bone. In bone constraints, I will add spline IK and choose the path curve we added. Increase the chain length to segments number +1, so it's 31. Notice that it's in an opposite direction, so to fix this, select the curve and in the edit mode, right-click and switch direction. Now it's ready. I will select the worm body and the armature, then set parent with automatic weights, and the curve now is going to control the body. Now select the spikes and the armature, and same thing with automatic weights. The curve now controls the spikes as well. For the eye, select, then the armature, but this time with bone. And same for the other eye and mouth and nose. Now one curve is controlling them all. And there you have it. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.